I recently made a video called Warcraft 3 Showed Me Why Modern WoW Feels Different, and I didn't really expect the amount of traction or publicity that video got. I was just kind of like, here's some things I noticed. Enjoy. Like, I don't know, I just kind of threw it together. I was like, here's some points, and I just kind of rambled about them. But Jesse just reacted to it. Nobbel reacted to it. There's been actually quite a few people reacted to this video. It's gotten posted places. I've been reading comments, which terrible idea. Never read all the comments. But I really wanted to watch and react to Nobbel's opinions because I'm going to have a chat with Nobbel and sit down and talk about WoW lore, as we always do. We do that for like every expansion, sometimes twice, like at the beginning and the end. And I really wanted to see his response because he's somebody that knows all the lore, knows everything, knows if I said something incorrect, knows if I was like, this is this way, and Nobbel's going to be like, no, it's not, Crendor, what are you talking about, right? And that's kind of what I want. Like, my intention here was never to be like, this game's for babies, and the lore is for babies, right? It was more so to have like a meaningful discussion of why things are the way they are, and why people feel the way they feel. Like, that's kind of what I was trying to get at. So I want to see what Nobbel had to say, so let's see.
In case of Crendor, I've sat down with Crendor quite a few times, and we talked about the lore and like fill in the gaps. And they've been playing Warcraft 3, and why modern WoW feels so different. And I'm really curious, like, what's going on, what they got to say, especially before talk. So let's find out, shall we?
Replayed through the entirety of the Warcraft 3 campaign, and I felt like doing it that reaction. One of which was it had been.
If you don't know Crendor, by the way, Crendor's a fucking legend amongst the World of Warcraft content creation scene. I'd be very surprised you don't know about them. But yeah, like they've been around forever. Like the Lucky Do.
I'm a prehistoric caveman content creator.
Crendor's awesome.
Been about 11 years since I last played through it. So again, reminder, I'm like, my favorite part about the game is just finding trees and rocks and random shit. And I'm trying to like get more into the lore and understand it, which is another reason why I played through Warcraft 3 and all this stuff, right? Like, and that's kind of why I want to see Nobbel's opinion. So here we go. I kind of want to just play through again and catch up on the lore and remember all the stories. And the other one was I wanted to see what people love so much about Warcraft 3, because we're in this era of World of Warcraft lore where it's all over the place, right? People hate it. People despise it. Some people are like, I think it's pretty good, right? It almost feels like even talking about it, like you're walking on eggshells at times. And it's like, why is that? And I wanted to kind of go back and experience this and be like, why do people love these characters and these stories? And I also want to mention that I'm not even a big video game story person. That's not to say that I don't like video game stories. And there's been plenty that I have liked. It's just, I prefer other forms of media to consume a story, right? Like TV, movies, especially books, because I've been reading a bunch of books. I've been rereading through Game of Thrones, which I know people are like, Crendor, why are you doing that? I'm on book 4 right now. And still it's just, I just like the way they're written. I love the stories and everything and the characters.
I was about to say, you do that because the books are awesome. What?
They are awesome.
Damn right, you read the books.
Right. So it's even made me want to write my own book. I've been learning about writing and storytelling, and so I kind of wanted to go into this with that type of analytical mindset of why do these characters from back in the day feel so much more lovable, and the ones currently have so much backlash about them. And one of the first things I noticed that I thought was interesting was we are right away under a cosmic threat, right? Like the Burning Legion is invading and Azeroth might be destroyed. And I thought it was funny because I was like, well, we're kind of still dealing with that, right? Like we have these cosmic threats, the Void, all this stuff, and Azeroth is going to be destroyed. We need to save Azeroth. And I was like, well, what's the difference, right? Like, what's the difference between this cosmic threat and that cosmic threat? And the first thing that I put together was the Burning Legion wasn't interesting because it was threatening the world. The Burning Legion was interesting because it acted as a catalyst for dozens of stories for the characters. And so, for example, we have the story of Arthas, one of everybody's favorite villains in World of Warcraft history, essentially just World of Warcraft Darth Vader, right? But what does Arthas want? He wants to save his people. He wants to protect his kingdom. He's fully in this video.
Uh,
You know, he goes and he purges Stratholme, which is good. He agrees with me so far, Some people might agree with, some people might not agree with, right? But it's a difficult decision he has to make. And you might say, hey, you know what? It was difficult, but he made that decision. He makes the decision because of what the Burning Legion is doing. They're forcing him to do this. They're forcing him to take action. And so after he does this, then he starts chasing down Mal'Ganis. He's like, I need to get my revenge on this Dreadlord, right? And so vengeance starts driving him to continuously make bad decisions. And so he starts, you know, doing his whole thing with the mercenaries where he hires them and then, you know, it's like, they did this, get him. And then you start being like, all right, Arthur's going a little crazy. And you watch as...
I need to say this because my brain is constantly going,
here
like,
we go.
Instead of just paying attention to what he's saying, my brain is like, huh? So far, the idea, so far, like the Burning Legion influenced Arce's choices and what is different with the Cosmic Threat. But the Void has also influenced people's actions and like take, for example, Illyria. Like the Void has pushed Illyria massively to take vengeance and to go off the deep end and be like, hey, Illyria, don't do so. And then she stabbed with a dagger. So
yeah,
the Void definitely influenced characters' choices as well. So I'm kind of wondering, like, where is this going?
I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. There's still going to be characters that are, you know, put into play because of these cosmic threats. You know, it's not like there's no cosmic threats. I think, I do think the previous Warcraft 3 cosmic threat was magnified because it was all put into like an RTS game format. So I think that makes you, you know, you have your magnifying glass on like, here's Arthas, right? Here's Kael'thas, right? And I think with WoW, this kind of does become that RTS versus MMORPG problem. Is it's hard to keep track of like who's getting impacted by what at what time. Like sometimes I'll just be like, wait, okay, why is she doing this? And it would be like, oh, you had to play through this quest line to get here, right? And again, if it was like an RTS game, you would go like, oh, I play through her thing, I see why she's doing this, etc. So I think that does play a big part here. The type of content you're consuming or the way you're consuming it. Arthas just like slowly descends into madness. In fact, you don't just watch, you actually play as Arthas fully descending into madness. And this is all set up because the Burning Legion started attacking Azeroth. And we even start getting some domino effect from this, right? Like we have Sylvanas, who's out here defending her homeland from Arthas, who's invading, and then she tries to fight him off. She can't do it. And she's just like, just give me a peaceful death. I deserve one. And he's just like, nah, screw you. And he just like turns her into a banshee. And now she wants revenge against Arthas and just freedom from the Lich King. And so you have like these dominoes falling and creating different little stories here. Or even a character like Kael'thas, where he's just trying to do what's best for his people after their homeland gets destroyed by Arthas, and they join the alliance, and the humans are like, look at these elves, let's throw them on the front line so they die. And they're just like, dude, what the hell? And then Illidan and Lady Vaz show up, and they're just like, hey, come with us. Those people suck. And he's like, all right. And then you just watch him get corrupted and, you know, slowly go insane. But it's like, I should make some like lore videos where it's just me like breaking it down to like that type of thing. I'm just like, this person's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Just like, I don't know, get out of here. Just like simplified lore, or just like I call like lore for dummies, dude. That might, I gotta write that down. You at least have this start for him where he's trying to do something good. He's trying to be the best leader he can be. Although I focus on like small quests, he just goes down the wrong path. Not the main story. And I think the big thing these observations showed me was that Warcraft 3 villains have understandable motivations, and it reminds me of that quote that's like the path to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Like the best villains don't just wake up one day and go, oh man, you know what? I'm gonna be evil today, right? Like this doesn't just happen. Like they've gotten to this point. They've convinced themselves what they're doing is right or necessary, and you don't have to actually agree with what they're doing, but it's one thing to agree with it and it's one thing to understand it, right? When you look at Arthas, you go, wow, what he's doing right now is insane as the Lich King, but you can go back and watch his path on how he's gotten here, and you go like, yeah, you know what? It sucks. Like, he just went down the wrong path. How many times do you hear that even in real life? Like, yeah, he was a good kid, but he just went down the wrong path, right? And I think that's
you know, Crendor, I can't tell you how many times Tales all this time, really. Good kid down the streets, went down the wrong alley, picked a Frostmourne, started to reap some souls. Tale is all this time.
Dude, I'm telling you.
Okay, so
I'm telling you,
Cosmic Threat influence.
It's a classic. I can't even tell you the amount of people walk down the wrong alley and just pick up a haunted sword and they're cursed forever.
Influencing events. Like so far, what I'm getting is that Arv's story is really good, which is true. Arv's story is really good, and it's connected to a lot of characters of Warcraft 3. My mind just shoots to WoW does similar things to that. I will say that World of Warcraft's MMORPG always has a massive difficulty into building characters up over multiple parts. Because WoW storytelling as an MMORPG is different.
Yeah.
You don't get a full fledged out storyline start to finish. You get patches in between and sometimes expansions.
Yeah.
But if you take, for example, a Garrosh Hellscream, I think that would be one of the more valid examples. You see Garrosh's path. You see what kind of character he was and the choice that he made. Now, the whole Honor Krumkar and then different writing teams have different choices. That was definitely a take. But you could definitely see that there were influences across the line that pushed him to become Garrosh as he is today, right? I'm trying to think if we have like different characters that purely in-game, because my mind also shoots to other characters like an Anduin, for example. But Anduin's story is quite a bit in the book and not just as you play World of Warcraft. And more recently, as we're looking at it right now.
And see, again, that's, as I get to later in the video, that's just like another point, right? It's like you have to read the book to like understand some of this stuff. And it's like, I really just don't like the fact that a lot of it is tied into so many different things all over the place. Right, like, and again, if you're telling me some like background story that doesn't matter at all to the game, like here's Anduin's favorite foods, here's what he did as a kid, right? Like things where you're like, okay, you know, that doesn't impact the main story, but like it's cool to know, right? It's kind of just like bonus stuff, and I feel like that's what the book should be, is just like bonus stuff.
Take, for example, an Arator. Arator is being built up into something. Or Illidan. You can see Illidan's road as where he took him. So I'm kind of curious where this is going.
Sense of realism is what makes it so enticing. Meanwhile, when I look at modern WoW writing, it almost feels like the modern villains always have these really big plans, and they always say that you wouldn't understand. This plan is so great and so big that you wouldn't understand it. And it's like, well, how about you just tell me it, and then I'll see if I understand it, right? And it's
nah, but you see, Crendor, that's the thing, right? Asking that of Warcraft's villains in modern writing means that they actually know what the villains are going to do before they do it, right? So if you're gonna ask the jailer with big plans, like, what are you up to? They need to know. What I'm saying is, I don't think they know quite yet. And right now with Zolotov, absolutely a major criticism with Zolotov is like, we don't know why and what she is doing. Which is something in my mind that I should have explained way earlier, because we are actively fighting against her, and it's like, why are we fighting against her? What is my motivation here? Could I perhaps ally with her? Could I agree with her? Maybe she is the good guy in all of this. And in that case, explaining actually what a character's motivation is, 1,000% agree.
It's like this dude. Nice. So far, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about this. The Nobbel, the lore master's agreeing so far, and yeah, I agree with him. Right. I really do wish they would just like explain just stuff. Big mystery of this villain who feels like they're like 10 steps ahead of you, and they're like, you're just not gonna understand it, man. And it's like, just tell me, and then we'll see if I understand it, right? And it's like so much different than more of a grounded experience that you get in these old Warcraft games, which is just like, here's a guy that just went down the wrong path, and now he got either corrupted or something happened and they're doing bad things, right? Like,
but in defense of Warcraft 3, I'm trying to think about, like, for example, did they fully flesh out a Kill Jaden at the time? Or does Kill Jaden just kind of pop up and do bad things? Like, how much of his motivation did you know? I'm trying to think. Kel'Thuzad kept it in the dark as well. Kel'Thuzad, when he monologues about his evil plans, is like, ooh, you'll never know what I'm doing. Whatever you're trying to do to stop me, Arthas, it will never help. Or will never do anything to help. And the difference there is that you immediately get the payoff, because in the next campaign or the next campaign over, you bring back Kel'Thuzad, and he's like, told you it wouldn't make any difference. And then he starts to explain the background of what's going on.
yeah.
Which again falls back into the idea between an RTS storytelling and an MMORPG storytelling. The pacing. How much information do you relay? How much can you give in one patch, right?
Like, it's night and day. And that leads me to my next point, which is mystery. And mystery is actually a very powerful tool in storytelling and world building, because it can create a sense of puzzle solving and theory crafting and all these different elements that people love to do. And so I think the best way to do mystery is making you curious and not confused. And it feels like a lot of times in modern retail WoW, we're more confused than curious. And I realized that in modern WoW, it seems like there's always this type of thing where it's like the villain has this master plan that your small brain wouldn't be able to understand.
I kind of repeat myself here,
they're
actually.
like, I've gone through things that you can't even comprehend. And it's like, I don't know, try me. Like, let's hear it. Maybe I can, maybe I can't, but let's hear what it is. Right? And it feels like there's always just a bigger...
I've heard people be like, well, it's because they have no plan. It's just kind of, they're going to make one later.
Threat or a bigger force or this bigger plan that they were hiding all along that you couldn't possibly comprehend. And it's like, we need less of that mystery and confusion, and we just need more explanation. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you here? Like, when we look back at Warcraft 3, things feel very finite. Right? Like, Arthas did what he did because of the Scourge invasion, and now everyone pays the price, because now Arthas is going around messing everything up, along with the Burning Legion, right? We have Tyrande set Illidan free, and so now we have to pay the price. He's out there, he's drinking demon skulls, or eating skull, whatever it was. And then you have the orcs, right? They drank the demon blood, and now everyone has to pay the price for that. They wanted to get that power from the demon blood, and then that's that. The world is now impacted by what they did. And it feels like those things were very finite in what happened. And now it's just, it feels like we don't really have that anymore. And that leads me to my next point.
I mean, I agree with the overarching villain, like a Zolotov and a jailer. I mean, I don't think I've been shy about that they should have explained the motivation to begin with, right? And I 100% agree with Crendor when he says, like, the mystery and confusing. There's a fine line between pulling your audience along and be like, ooh, who knows what's going to happen here. There's a fine line between doing that in a fun, interesting way and an annoying way, where it's like, eventually people just go like, I'll come back when you start explaining stuff, right? And I think also your reputation is something very important here. If we think back to the Jail and Shadowlands, where it was constantly just wait until the next patch, just wait until the next patch, the storyline's going to be revealed. If you show your audience that payoff is never going to be there, the second time that you do the mystery storytelling, they already come from a spot of, I remember when you did this and it was not satisfying. So if you're going to decide to do that, the payoff needs to be a lot earlier. It doesn't, if you keep it running until the finale, that becomes annoying.
Yeah.
And make no mistake, like, the motivations of the jailer were not explained until the book. Like the
Again, another book. But like he just mentioned, I think when you drag it out for so long, people just kind of stop caring at a point. That doesn't mean everybody stopped caring, right? There's probably plenty of people that are like, you know, I'm still enjoying it, right? And that's whatever. But like, I think a lot of people will hit that point, especially with so many different games out there and so many different sources of media, that you're just going to be like, I don't know, I'm just going to go do something else. You know what I mean? Like, I think it does get to that point.
Sylvanas novel goes into, okay, this is what the jailer was about, this is what he was doing. And the ending with, like, the end cutscene where he's on the floor and is like, even back then, people were like, this was supposed to be at the start, right? And some, let the hype build up too much. Something that they learned from Plunderstorm, when they announced Plunderstorm with just a pirate flag. Whatever your audience is going to imagine is going to be 10,000 times better than what you're going to come up with. Guaranteed. So there is a fine line between building up mystery, which people can sink their teeth in and speculate and wonder about, and annoy them and not give them the payoff that they are looking for. Cascading bigger bets is tricky because, on the one hand, there's definitely the staircase. Like, every single time there's a bigger bad. Like, oh, you thought Sargeras was bad? Well, what about Sargeras from the Realm of Death? Oh, you thought that one was bad? Well, what about Zolotov?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, and I said this many, many times before, it all depends on how you portray your bad guy. A fire-breathing dragon can be just as threatening to the world as a jailer, as a Zolotov. And they did in Dragonflight. We had Firak. Firak was awesome. It was like, you understand what they're about, what they're doing, and why you need to stop them. It doesn't have to be the mystery storytelling, but it's something that Blizzard adopted at some point. And I agree. I wish they would stop doing it as well and explain more.
I actually enjoyed Dragonflight quite a bit. Which is how you actually experience the story. And so Warcraft 3 is unique in that you can just say, hey, if you want to experience the entire story of Warcraft 3, go play the game, play through the campaign, and that's it. You'll know everything, right? Like, you'll know everything you need to know. You even get to play as the characters going through those stories, and you can relate to them and understand them a bit better. And so, right, it's like you just play the campaign and you know everything. While
I do think playing
when you
as
go
the
to
characters
retail WoW, and you haven't
pretty
played
impactful.
retail WoW in a while, I've seen this even with people that come back to the game, or they've never played retail WoW, or they've played Warcraft 3 and they want to play retail WoW, and they go, well, I'd like to learn about the lore. Like, how do I learn more about the lore? And it's like, everyone's like, well, there's like, you got campaign quests you could do, and there's like cinematics, and there's like some books you got to read, and like you could watch a YouTube lore video. It's like 4 hours long, and then there's like some. It's
You
just
go to
like you have
Nobbel's
like an
channel.
entire list of shit that people have to go through.
Really?
to, like,
You just go
learn
to Nobbel's
about
channel.
the modern story or get caught up with it, and it's just a lot of times that can be so daunting. Even for this very video, I was like, I'm gonna learn a lot about the modern WoW lore and get caught up on a lot of the stories and the backstories, and like even just learning about some of the modern characters, or like who they are, why they're here, it would take like hours, like days of research. It's like I'm going to school to learn about this, and I'm like, dude, this is just like so much to learn. In fact, I would say Xalatath actually started out really strong in this aspect.
Before he gets to his second point, again, I very much agree. When I got into the lore, which was back in Wrath of the Lich King, I was watching the Wrathgate cinematic, and I was like, this looks so cool. I wonder what's going on here. I wonder who these characters are. So I went to the Wikipedia page, and I started reading on the Wikipedia, and I started to learn and put the pieces of the puzzle together. And I was like, oh, cool. So I've seen these in Classic, and this is Warcraft 3, and all the good stuff. And I was like, okay, so this is what's happening here. We are 10 expansions, 8 expansions later down the line. And in order to learn the lore, you still need to do the exact same thing. Find something you're interested in, go to the Wikipedia page, and figure out what happened to these characters. And it's been made more difficult over the years with retconning, point of view storytelling, with the chronicles, with extra books, and just more materials been added with cutscenes and comics and online short stories and this and that. Like, there's a reason why I've been doing this thing for over 10 years now, and I've been able to cover the story of Warcraft. And we've spoken about this earlier as well. Like, where's the value in telling a story that has a rich respect for the history that came before, versus somebody who's just jumping into WoW and needs to understand it from a face value as well?
Yep.
That's difficult. And
I think that is part of it, is that it is really difficult to do that type of thing when you, because like he said, you get into it in Wrath, and it's like, here's Classic, here's TBC, here's Wrath, right? You got that, and then you got like Warcraft, the RTS games and everything back there too, right? And now it's like you have all that, but in addition, you have like everything after that, and then the modern stuff, and it's like, well, where do I start? Like, what, it's just, it can be overwhelming to the point where you just like stop caring, and then you try to like understand, and then you're like, wait, why? Like, you can play it and be like, okay, I understand this, but why would they do this, or why do they even care about? Like, why do we even care about the Zandalar? What do we care about? And it's like, you go to look up that, and it goes all the way back to, it's just like, you keep going down these different paths, and it just feels like there's just, it's overwhelming. It really is overwhelming. And I think that was the one thing that I really learned from trying to like research for this video, because I got so many comments too of people just being like, he clearly doesn't even understand. I don't. I don't understand. I'm trying to understand. It's just, it's a lot, man. It's hard, Anyway.
we've gotten to the point where the new writers, they weren't there from the beginning. And so there are people in the audience that know the story better than they do, because they are writers, and they are quest designers, and they are this and that. Historian is a whole different job, a whole different bag. And just the fact that you need a historian for your storytelling says a lot, right? Like, there's a lot to learn. So yeah, it is incredibly daunting for people to get into the story of WoW. And I made a whole video, 2 videos, I think. I made like a whole document that I sent over to Blizzard. Like, these are my suggestions on how to improve your storytelling. Like, make like a lore museum, Caverns of Time, where people can do cutscenes.
Yeah,
and
the whole document.
make recap videos, and something like lore walking, where Lore Walker Cho comes in. And some of those things, some of those things actually made it in, because we do have lore walking now.
Yeah.
And we do have recap cutscenes, and we do have, like, after the War Within, they actually made it so that in-game you can do a recap of that expansion. You can play through it quickly. So it is something on their minds, but it is something 20 years after the fact. Good luck trying to get it all together and recapping it and making sure that everybody can see it. And that once again flows into the idea of
I do like that, though.
putting a dot behind the story and make room so that you can start over and you can respect the story that came before. A major difference between 14 and WoW is that for 14 you need to play through the entire story to get to the end, and in WoW it's like get to the end game as quickly as possible. With that in mind, you also create a player base that completely experience your story on a different level. How many in WoW just click through the quest dialogue? And then what they've done is they've made it so that you don't need to read the quest. Instead, the NPCs will basically start talking to each other and summarize the story that you just clicked through.
Yeah.
How many people run away and they're like, nah, I got a raid tonight. My character needs to be max level. I gotta go.
Probably like 99%.
So there's on the other end, for Blizzard's end, there's a certain amount of value in trying to tell a story to a player base that just does not care, right? Because they're there for the end game, for the gameplay, and for me, like in a perfect world, both are serviced.
I do think I agree with him here, but I do think that there's kind of a blend of that, right? There's people that are there for PvP and they're going to not care about the story at all. There's people that are there to do Mythic Plus or Raid and they don't care about the story at all, right? There's people just playing casually and they might just read some quest here and some quest there, and then other quests be like, I don't want to read these. And then there's going to be people who are really into the lore. They're going to read everything. And it's just, I think it's kind of like he's saying, it's difficult to design that type of thing unless you're going to do it like Final Fantasy, where it's like you must do every story thing possible. But even then, that becomes kind of daunting of like, I don't want to play through all this, right? It's like I have to go through everything. So, I mean, I think that is just part of the problem of an MMORPG, to be honest. And that's just kind of the way it is.
Spoke about something like Legion. But yeah, it's getting into Warcraft lore. Like, there's a reason the channels exist, right? Newbies wouldn't know about the retcons, therefore wouldn't have any problems with it. But then the question becomes, like, what is the storyline? Like I mentioned earlier, I saw a reaction from somebody looking at the Terrellian cinematic. And they look at the Terrellian cinematic and are like, oh, I'm so happy they gave more story to Terrellian because I understand him better now. Like, he was massively wounded at Blackrock Mountain, and so he lost himself in the light. So to me, I'm like, but that's not what happened though. That's not his story though, is it? That's not what happened at all. And that comes back to the question on who do you cater to? Somebody who at face value gets that cutscene and gets the story that you want to tell today, or somebody who goes like, yeah, but that's not what happened though, is it? Who do you cater to?
Like, dude, this is just like so much to learn. In fact, I would say Xalatath actually started out really strong in this aspect because we had her as one of the artifact weapons as a Shadow Priest, right? And so I think a lot of people loved even theory crafting with that, where they're like, the blade is whispering stuff to the players, right? And it's like, people were like, who is she? Like, is she an old god? Why is she trapped in the blade? Like, what's going on, right? And that's the type of mystery I think people want. It's like, yo, this could be something really interesting and cool here. And instead, it feels like it turns into a jailer tier, like, I have a big plan that you can't know about for some reason. And I think when it hits that point, it starts just feeling kind of like a cartoony Sailor Moon type of villain, right? And some people are going to...
Don't you dare disrespect Sailor Moon.
Listen, I'm not disrespecting. Dude, I love Sailor Moon. I watched every season of the old Sailor Moon. Genuinely. But the thing is, like, you know, some of those villains, they're just like, I'm gonna do this evil thing, and then they laugh and go, ha 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 ha, ah ha 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 ha, ah ha, and then, like, you know, twirls mustache or whatever. Right? And it's not inherently bad. Like, I don't think there's a lot of depth behind a lot of those villains, but like, it doesn't really have to be, because like, it's kind of just a fun, wacky type of thing. I think a lot of the villains are really well designed and cool, and sometimes that's like all you need. Like, and I think, you know, it's kind of like with some like Mega Man. Sometimes there's a Mega Man villain and they're like, it's Robot Crocodile Guy, and I'm like, I don't know anything about Robot Crocodile Guy, but what I do know is he looks awesome. Right? And sometimes it's just like that, and I'm like, you know what,
I don't really know much about them, but they look pretty cool. So yeah, I'm not trying to disrespect Sailor Moon. I love Sailor Moon.
On the note, by the way, there is a matter of when do you start explaining Xalata's background and motivations. And one of the things that did concern me was during the midnight announcements, Blizzard said like Xalata has proclaimed her intentions now, and she has told us what she's going to do, but she hasn't. Yeah. We have an idea that she's going for the World Soul. That's pretty clear. But the why and what she wants to do, we have no clue. So we don't know what Xalata wants, and yet we're already actively fighting against her. And up to that part, I'm like, why are we fighting against her? Byzantine, hello there, Raiders as well. Welcome everybody coming in. We are in the middle of reacting to a video by the one and only Wowcrendor, who has done a Warcraft 3 Show Me Why Modern WoW Feels Different. And we're going over, pulling it in. So hello everybody, welcome. I have to know the entire lore, just need to know the story you mentioned or type back to, which sure can be a lot, but it isn't that much. Maybe that's just the DM writer autism in me talking, but it's easy to fix these plot holes already. Like I'm sitting here from the mindset of I can do it, so why can't you? But this is the scenario that I created in my head. If and I don't know if this is true or not, but say that I'm working for Blizzard, right? And Blizzard is like, Nobbel, I need 50 quest lines by the end of the week.
Yep.
And they better be fun, interesting, and implemented. So I go to work and I make 50 quest lines. Am I really expected to start lore checking every single one of those quest lines? No, I don't have time for that. But then, is there a department that is supposed to lore check these things, and who is doing these things, right? And then, again, there was an interview by Taliesin where they were like, report bugs better on the PTR, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not our responsibility as a player base to check your game and make sure that it's fixed. No, you need to have quality assurance in-house, but we know that those were fired. You need to have historians in-house, but we know that those were fired,
let 'em cook.
right? So, and this falls back to the whole, in a world where you're shrinking your development team, obviously things are going to fall through the cracks, and obviously they need to figure out ways to go further and still tell a story. But sometimes reading all these reports, you start to wonder, like, how the f doesn't more get broken? How do we still even have a storyline, right?
Gonna like that, and it's not like bad. It's just I think a lot of people expect more, and then they don't get it. And I think that right there is where in lies a lot of problems we experience with the modern game, which is an MMORPG is much harder to tell a story in, at least a coherent story, compared to an RTS game or something like that, where everything's kind of condensed down into one format. It kind of goes back into, you know, what I was talking about earlier, where it's like, if I want to read a story or read a book, it's all right there, right? If I watch a TV show or a movie, it's all right there. But when you play a game like an MMORPG, it's like everything's just scattered about. And I'm like, well, why did this thing happen? Why is Xalatath afraid of, like, the scourge or death or whatever? And they're like, well, if you read the book about Sylvanas in the thing with the, and I'm just like, bro, what? Like, I don't know. It almost feels like I have to research like Warcraft instead of just experiencing Warcraft. You know what I mean? It's like, like I said, I have to go to school to learn about everything instead of just like, oh, I'll just play the game and learn everything, right? And
it reminds me so much back during the Shadowlands days where I said the exact same thing, where it was like, well, actually, if you read this book and if you interpret this moment in just the right light, then it's very clear, very obvious what Sylvanas' motivations are and what the Jailer's motivations are. Oh my god, I remember those aggravating discussions back during the Shadowlands where there were like content creators like, oh, actually, you just don't get the story, you're not paying attention, and it's like, no, they're not telling a story to us. What do you mean I'm not paying attention?
And I think that in lies a lot of the issue, right? Like I said, with an RTS game, it's all compact. It's right there. So if I want to criticize something, I can say like, you know what? I don't like Arthas's dialogue over the course of the game, you know, and be like, okay, why don't I like his dialogue? Is it cheesy? You know, and it almost feels like sometimes with the modern game, if I want to criticize something, I'm like, well, maybe I don't like the dialogue here, but is she always saying that dialogue? And then I have to like go and like find all of the things she's done scattered about the game and be like, okay, her dialogue here is pretty good, but like over it, it's like, it's so hard because you're like getting all these pieces that are all scattered about, while again, in an RTS, it's all very compact.
Just because you have a certain interpretation as to the storyline doesn't mean that your interpretation is right? No, it's their department to tell a story. And to see history repeat itself with Xalatath is really funny. Now, and this again flows back to telling a story in MMORPG. And this is something where Final Fantasy XIV and WoW are so different from one another. WoW is not played for the story. The story, in my mind, is always like the afterthought. It's the cherry on top. It's delicious. It's there for those that care about it. But for the main thing, people are in WoW for general broad statements, raiding, mythic plusing, PvPing, for the gameplay.
Or, me who farms mounts and looks at trees and rocks.
Story is extra. Now, obviously, our community loves the storyline, right? But in general, as I said, a lot of people just click through the quest and they'll watch a video later or not care at all. In Final Fantasy XIV, another MMORPG where they do tell the story, skipping it is a sin. You're not allowed to skip the story. You need to experience the story because that is the big part of the journey. Yeah. Of course it has endgame. Of course it has raiding and stuff that's challenging and difficult to do and to collect. But to skip the story in Final Fantasy XIV is to skip like 80% of the game. So why would you? And in their case, they're like, no, sit down. Everything has like cutscenes and dialogue, and you will know this storyline. So it's very much a different focus over the years. Very different focus. Because can you imagine playing WoW, not being allowed to skip Classic? You need to play. People do this, by the way. They got like all these locked-in expansion video series going on where they're like, I'm not allowed to leave the Shadowlands until I completed everything. I'm like, oh, you poor fool. So, yeah.
That truly is like being trapped in the hell of Shadowlands.
Why did Zalata wanted to do something with a Naru in a place we could trace for? All our plans would have gone without a problem, not connected the Void Planet to us. Why doesn't she sabotage her own chances? So, in the case of Zalata, she basically throws different... This is my interpretation. She throws different ideas at different plans out into the cosmos and see what working. Back in the Jailer times, there was also the whole speculation of, the Jailer can't predict the future. He's just throwing spaghetti at the wall and sees whatever sticks. Now, again, that was wrong. The Jailer most definitely was able to predict the future. But Zalata is the one throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So, in her case, she had a plan of sending her devouring host to take the Sunwell, and a miracle happened like twice, and we were able to push back the devouring host. And Zalata was like, oh, okay, well, I have this second plan cooking, where...
See, that's what I would like to know, like, why they decided to do that right here. Like, he says a miracle happened twice. Like, to me, that's just like a Deus Ex Machina, which, it's kind of like... I'd rather see something lead up to that point of like, we put together this force and we fought her off instead of it just like happening right away. But again, that's kind of why I wanted to like ask Nobbel or some of these people these things. I want to like know the backstory behind it because like maybe there is something and I'm just missing it. You know what I mean? And maybe it's not a Deus Ex Machina. Anyway.
I am busy corrupting his Naru, and once the Naru is corrupted, I will send it down and we will have a party. But we managed... beyond miracles, right? Like, we managed to open up a way into the Void Storm, and we stopped it as well. So, okay, cool. Then she had a third plan that she's been cooking on since fucking the War Within, which is Illyria. She's been whispering to Illyria, manipulating Illyria. She's been getting to Illyria all along, and Illyria thought that it was because of her, right? And Zalata was like, nah, it wasn't for you at all. I just needed that Naru inside of you. Now, the question... why didn't she corrupt the Naru in a secret off-world base where we could never find her? A similar question as to why didn't Sargeras ever make its way to Azeroth? Like, it would be a very short game if the bad guy would win. But personally, the way that they told the story, I'm quite happy with it because it shows that fighting Zalata is somebody who doesn't just have one plan you can prevent. She is very much a multiple things at the same time. And this is something that they also gone deeper into with the Karesh storytelling and questing, where we got to join her. And we saw how she had multiple plans at the same time, and ultimately she will still win. Yeah, she creates an options where you think you have a choice, but ultimately Zalata is going to be out on top, right? Ooh.
I do think, I agree with that. I think it's cool seeing her have multiple plans, and we had to, fight with her and see all the things. But at the same time, I think that's what makes it so unrealistic to me, that we would just have these like miracles happen. It's like we fought her off. It's like, dude, what? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like that's how it should happen. It feels like she should be winning. Like she should be pushing us back. We should be like, dude, Zalata's insane. Like we can't keep up. Like that's kind of how I feel. And I think that's what bothers me so much about it. If that makes sense.
I mean, there you go. Yeah. Patch isn't out yet. I really know how it ends. Is insane. That is another thing. And that's something that I actually thought about when I did my PTR video. I'm like, do I want to make a video on this? And ultimately, I was like, fuck it, I'll just put spoilers all over it and I'll put it out there for those that enjoy it. But I agree. If Blizzard would decide to just lock up their storyline and not reveal it on the PTR and the beta, I think it would improve the experience for everybody in the game. Because you get to experience it as intended in the game for the first time yourself. Which is so much better than getting snippets and this and that. Now, will they ever do it? No.
No. They need you to test the bugs.
They have free testers. And even in the fucking commercials, they're spoiling endings now. And it's like, yeah, they never will. But for the quality, 1,000%. Yeah.
Kind of tying that back in here, it feels like a lot of times they drip feed the content. While, again, with Warcraft 3, you can just burn through it at your own pace, however fast you want to play. You can play it on baby mode and get through it in like a few hours, right? And so yeah. I think when you have something like the modern MMORPG where it's drip feeding these stories and it's trying to keep you actively engaged, which is one of the reasons that they do the things like drip feeding and like, hey, come back for the next patch if you want to learn more, right? And it can also drag out the experience and make you not care as much. I remember I watched a video from Platinum WoW, and he mentioned that Vol'jin dies and names Sylvanas as his war chief for some reason, and that happened in 2016.
Yeah. That video is really good, by
we
the
don't
way.
actually find out until 2020 that
a lot of good videos.
Wazala, the Loa of Death, whispered in his ear and told him to make Sylvanas war chief in 2020. So it's like it took 4 years for us to learn that, and it's like that's the type of stuff where you would probably want to learn it right away and it wouldn't really change much. You'd go, oh, okay, I see where this happened now, and you carry on. Like, why is it dragged out? Why is it so mysterious, right? It just feels like it's mysterious just for the sake of being mysterious. My final point I want to bring up here is
I'm trying to think. So we had Vol'jin on the Broken Shore, poisoned, making Sylvanas the war chief. And after that, we had Battle for Azeroth, and then we had the Shadowlands. Yep. I think that, and this is not so much like his point as to you're drip feeding it, and it's taking too long for the story to be released. Yeah, that's where I'm going, Dirty. That's exactly where I'm going. Yes, it entirely takes too long for you to reveal these things when you're drip feeding them. Mystery storytelling, if you want to do it in WoW, it can be done. Somebody earlier mentioned as well, like Iridicron was doing something in the background while we dealt with the main storyline. Warcraft storytelling with like a major plot and then something running in the background that you're wondering about and thinking about, like the Whispers of Il'gynoth, for example.
I think the old gods are a great example, right? Like, we know the old gods back in the day were always there manipulating stuff, and I guess there still are, kind of. They don't have the same, I guess, impact as it feels, because we've like killed a lot of them, or sent them back to the void or whatever it is. But like that was always like kind of a cool thing. Like the old gods were just lurking beneath the earth and like whispering and doing this stuff, and I always thought that was really cool. Like, even if we were up top fighting Ragnaros or dragons or whatever it might be, you're just like, dude, there's like that little bit of old god manipulation. These old gods are like doing it. And I mean, that's the type of thing where it's mysterious, but you're like it's a good type of mystery, right?
Mystery storytelling is not bad per se. In a similar vein that retcons are not bad per se. In a similar vein that point of view is not bad per se. It's all a matter of implementation. Yeah. If you are going to do mystery storytelling in World of Warcraft, you need to be clear as to what you want it to be doing, and there needs to be a certain payoff, in my opinion, and it needs to be quick. Now, does that need to be in the same week? Nah, but like 4 years is a bit much for people to care, right? And exactly as I was going to make the point about the whole the mystery of Muzala being the one telling Vol'jin to make Sylvanas the war chief, was that always the plan? I sincerely doubt that the jailer was a plan back in Legion. I wonder when they came up with a plan with the jailer plotline. Because it's been all over the place, right? Like the Burning Hotel to the Sail, into the Shadowlands, into the connections. Was this planned, or was this something that they were like, you know what? We never really explained why we made her the war chief. Let's give it to Muzala.
Yeah.
And by the way, Muzala is also the ally of the jailer. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I will also say with mystery, sometimes having a mystery that then gets revealed can like damper your interest in something, if that makes sense. For example, I remember watching Attack on Titan and always just being like, dude, what's in the basement? What's in the basement, right? Like, it's just like, dude, I want to know what's in the basement. And then you figure out what's in the basement, and it almost felt like after that occurred, I was kind of like, oh, okay. And then I like didn't really care anymore. But I think that might tie into the fact that I just didn't care about like the overarching plot line going on. But sometimes it is true that like when you figure out that mystery that you've been like, why is that a thing? And then you're like, oh, okay, like that's cool, I guess. So yeah, I get. I don't really know what I was saying. It just I thought of that because of mystery.
I agree, Fons. Overuser point of view is disgusting. 2010, dig another 27. A lot of updates as it continues. Stories are super good and engaging because you have in between time to theorize. Yeah, but again, I think it depends on implementation. So, for example, 12.1 will tell a cohesive storyline, or like Crash will tell like its own storyline. Aristo! It will tell their own storyline. Meanwhile, there's a bigger storyline running in the background. And that's fine. Like Undermine told its own story. That's absolutely fine storytelling. Sometimes it's even a little bit too quick.
And honestly, I loved Undermine, man. Like that, I still want to reiterate a lot of the time when I've seen a lot of people being like, another content creator making some video being like, wow, retail WoW is Disney baby food. Right? And I'm like, I'm not trying to be that. I genuinely play retail WoW, and I loved Undermine. I had a great time in Dragonflight. Like I'm more so trying to figure out why a lot of people feel the way they do, or why I don't really engage a lot with certain villains or certain storylines or whatever it might be. I mean, some people, they're just going to hate the game to hate the game, or some people are going to hate it because it's not the way it used to be, or it does too many things that they don't like, or it follows too many tropes, or it doesn't execute tropes on a scale that it should. Like, I mean, everything's a trope. Like, tropes aren't inherently bad. It's just how you handle the trope that can, do things. And I'm sure there's plenty of tropes in WoW where they handle it pretty well, and it's like, yo, that was cool. And then there's other tropes where it's kind of like, I don't know. So yeah.
But it's very much like, how do you do it? Yeah.
Consequences. And to do that, I want to start by referencing some Game of Thrones. Here is consequences. My final point I want to bring up here is consequences. And to do that, I want to start by referencing some Game of Thrones stuff, because I feel like most people have seen Game of Thrones, or they know about Game of Thrones, and early on, they were based off the books. And so one of the reasons people love Game of Thrones was the characters felt very realistic. The world felt very realistic, and the characters had realistic consequences for their actions. And so it felt like nobody was really safe, right? Like, no matter what anyone did, there was always a possibility that something could go wrong, and you never really knew what that was going to be. And there was no... And actually, that kind of made me think about this when Nobbel was mentioning, like, we have like these miracles happen, right? And I think this kind of ties into that a little bit, where it almost feels like Xal'atath is so powerful and she has all these plans, and like right, I feel like she should be winning. It's like a lot of people are saying, like, I wish I would lose, and we're not going to lose, right? Like, the whole point of the story is that we're gonna come out on top at some point, right? I understand that, but it feels like we should be feeling the power of Xal'atath more, is how I feel. And I think it'd be really cool to witness that, of her just like actually just being like going. I think part of the problem too is like she could go full Deathwing. You know what I mean? She starts like destroying everything. But again, that's kind of hard to do in an MMORPG where we're already struggling to repair from the cataclysm from like decades ago. And so it's like, are we going to do this again? And so I think some of that does play into it, but yeah, that's what I was thinking. No real evil characters or good characters. There's just a lot of morally gray characters, and some of them were definitely, more evil than others, but nobody was like truly evil. Then fast forward to the future seasons where they didn't have the books to go off of, and it was very criticized for things like characters not acting like themselves, ignoring established lore, and giving key characters plot armor. And so that just kind of reminded me a little bit of
like the modern WoW.
Oh, Crendor, I wanted to stop you from saying it. Don't, you're not supposed to say it out loud, Crendor.
What did I say? That just kind of reminded me a little bit of like the modern WoW storytelling. Not completely, but like people remember things like Stratholme because it wasn't an easy choice, right? Like it was a difficult choice for Arthas to make, and it was one that started his journey or his descent towards being the Lich King, right? I mean, even some interesting choices are like Malfurion. I remember Malfurion is like, Illidan, I can't stand you. We're going to capture you. You're the worst. We're going to, kill him. Tyrande, I can't believe you let him free, right? But then when Tyrande is in danger, Illidan is like, Malfurion, let me help you. And then Maev's just like, dude, Malfurion, what are you doing? Like, kill him or whatever. And then he's like, I need you to save Tyrande. And so in that moment, we learn that Malfurion probably puts Tyrande on a pedestal above everyone else, right? And so we actually get a little bit of his character development where he's like, you know what? I know we should probably take Illidan out here and, it's probably better for the world, but Tyrande needs our help, right? And so you get a little bit of his character there. Like, he loves Tyrande and he cares. Also, people keep making fun of me for saying Tyrande, but in the one Legion, he's always like, Tyrande. So I'm just saying it the way he says it. So much that he's willing to put her above everything. And I think those are the types of things we see from realistic decisions. A lot of the time.
Okay, but then my mind shoots to something like Illyria being forced to work together with Zolotov. Where Illyria is being given the choice, like, okay, you could execute Zolotov right now, but it basically means the death and destruction of the entire Warcraft universe, the love of your son, of your husband, if you care about him in this moment. So I'm not sure what... We went from the Game of Thrones comparison to the writers now, and it's realistic. So why is that different?
Hold on, I gotta listen to what you just said again.
It's now and it's realistic. Not sure of your husband. We went from the Game of Thrones like, okay, you could execute Zolotov right now, but it basically means the death and destruction of the entire Warcraft universe, the love of your son, of your husband, if you care about him in this moment. So I'm not sure what... We went from the Game of Thrones comparison to the writers now, and it's realistic. So
I think my problem is that it feels like everything's going to work out fine. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit later. It feels like a lot of time when there's a difficult thing about to happen in retail WoW storytelling, I feel like there's no reason to believe that it's going to go poorly, if that makes sense. Like, if I would imagine like a different scenario where Xalatath was like, listen, she like does some crazy plan and she's like, you can either save your husband or your son. And it's like that type of thing where she'd have to be like, or she's like, or you could kill me and destroy the universe, and like all like some crazy kind of thing where she has to make a big choice, and maybe she tries to save both, and then they both die because she tries to save both, and she like is like freaking out. She like can't live with that. Like that's the type of thing I'm thinking of. Like, just consequences from these sort of like monumental decisions that it feels like it feels like nothing bad is gonna happen. If that makes sense. It's like it's like a plot armor type of thing. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just looking into this incorrectly, but that's just how I feel.
Why?
That might be something I have to ask him when we meet up. In fact, I'm going to write that
because
down.
that is still making a difficult choice, right? Like, you're being put in a position, you're making a difficult choice in that moment. So, I mean, sometimes the story is definitely flattened in a way that there's not, but that depends on the storyline. To say that WoW doesn't offer those moral dilemmas and like, okay, we need to choose for the greater good.
Now that I'm thinking, it almost reminds me of like a parent trying to get their kid to calm down, and they're going like, I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And then they don't do anything. And they go like, well, I don't know what to do now. I've tried everything. I've tried nothing, and I'm all out of ideas. The Simpsons quote. So like I get that the threat is there, but it feels like the threat is empty because I feel there's no like actual reason to believe the threat, because it's like, again, if my parent goes 1, 2, 3 and they don't do anything, well then why should I care? They're gonna do it again and I'm not gonna, like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I'm getting at.
I mean, I would argue that a lot of people actually criticized Warcraft lore because it overused that trope so much. Like, oh my god, we need to work together again. And this was something comparable. Like in the Shadowlands, we had
That's true. We do work together a lot.
And Ufra goes to Jaina and he's like, Jaina, we need to work to Sylvanas. And Jaina goes, no. And then he goes, trust not her, but me. And she goes, yeah, that sucked because it was way too short and there were no realistic consequences to her motivations. That's definitely the execution, but not so much the scenario. But then taking it to an Illyria, where Locust Walker is like, Illyria, we must work together with Zalatoth. And Illyria goes, no, but it is I, Locust Walker, trust in me. And she goes like, lol, no, I will just trust you less now. What the fuck are you talking about, work together with Zalatoth? I'm not gonna work. What do you mean? She's been trying to kill me all along. I'm not gonna. And eventually she comes around and she's like, literally, it's the choice between the entire universe being devoured or working with Zalatoth. And even then, she is still like...
Also, I think in my example I was giving, it's kind of like Malfurion actually chose Tyrande over, like, the good of the universe, which I think is interesting. Because, like, I think, again, if we dial it back to Illyria, imagine if Xal'atath was like, you can save your family, or I'll, like, blow up the Sunwell, right? Like, something crazy. And she'd be like, I don't want him to do it, but, like, I gotta save my family. And she's like, all right, well, Sunwell, bloink. And then the Sunwell, like, blows up. And it's, like, unsavable until the end of the expansion where we have to, like, do something, right? Like, just something like that. And then she has to live with the fact of, like, I did this. I destroyed the Sunwell because of my actions. But in actuality, it was Xal'atath, you know, holding a gun to her head, like, make a choice. And, like, obviously she's gonna choose her family. Like, that, these are the types of things that I'm thinking of, right? Like, these are the types of situations where it's like, I've made this choice out of how I feel. Like, I want to save my family. Like, I have to save my family. But I know if I do that, Xal'atath's like, I'm going to destroy something. You know what I mean? Like, and then she does that because she's like, well, I have to save my family, and then boom. Right? And now it just feels like that's not going to happen. It feels like Sylvanas will come out and be like, pew, never mind. No consequences. We just keep rolling. The good times roll. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I'm feeling.
I hate you so much right now. So... They learn, right? But I mean, for me, Shadowlands is not fair. Like, Shadowlands is just not fair for comparison. Yes, it played a massive part, but good lord. E. How evil act in self-interest, realistic, relatable motivation for the action, whereas recent WoW characters simply do not. I mean, kind of case by case, to be honest. Like, in the same vein, like, my mind shoots to, for example, Liadrin being so open to working with the Amani, right, with her history. But for me, that's more in pacing and execution rather than her being open to work with them, right? Yeah.
I would agree with that, too. Another pacing thing. I think a lot of people have been, at least from what I've heard, you know, with, like, the trolls and the elves working together or, like, all that stuff. And I think, you know, I think it's fine to reach that point, but it does feel at times like there's definitely pacing issues where it happens too fast. I think that happens in a lot of things, especially in show. I mean, I felt that way at the end of The Amazing Digital Circus, where I was like, that was all right. And, like, I didn't hate it, but it felt like it needed a couple more episodes to, like, get to where we were. And I think sometimes with a lot of the WoW writing stuff, too, it almost feels like they need a little bit more time on certain things and then less time on other things. So, yeah, I think pacing is definitely a big thing.
In the same vein with the whole reuniting the elves that we're all coming together, again, not so much that we're coming together, but more like the pacing in which it happens. Like, what do you mean the Silver Covenant and the Sun Reavers are now, after 4 talks that we didn't see behind the scenes, are now working together and becoming together as one? Like, implementation, right? Yeah, Garrosh is definitely a good example as the. I think Garrosh is one of the better storylines built up in WoW. But then again, we also got something like a Jaina, for example. Smaller scope thing. We knew that Illidan was just egotistical, power-hungry younger brother, while as Zolotov... I mean, Illidan was ready to destroy the world. I'm thinking... Oh, God, I'm trying to remember. Did he at that point already attack the Skull of Gul'dan? Of the Frozen Throne? Yeah, he did. No! Illidan most definitely was a world-ending threat. At that point, he already went to the Tomb of Sargeras, he got the Eye of Sargeras, and he tried to destroy Ner'zhul and the Frozen Throne and bring the entire fucking Northrend down upon the rest of the world, to which we had to stop him from. And he's like, no, my spell wasn't finished. And Malfurion's like, yeah, but you're about to kill all of us. Stop. So there was definitely, like, was it like Zolotov is going to devour us? But in that moment, we also looked at, like, a Demencius, right? And it's like the choice between, I know you're going to betray me. Yeah, again, very much case-to-case basis. In the same vein that moments after working together with Zolotov, Locust Walker picks up the Dark Heart. Lol, I'm dead now. Like, what do you mean he picked up the Dark Heart? This is the fucking Locust Walker.
Time I see people in the community talking about, I wish we would just lose, right? And I think a lot of people thought that's what the second WoW Midnight or World Soul Saga was going to be, kind of like a Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers type of thing, right?
Oh.
Where... you know, there's the Battle of Helm's Deep, and they're losing, and it's like, oh my god, we can't keep this up. We're gonna get defeated. And then at the end, they're like, hey, you know what? We fought it off, and there's still a war, but, you know, we've won the battle, but we still got the war out there. And I thought that's what it was gonna be. I thought Xal'atath was gonna come in here, and she was gonna be like, I'm destroying the Sunwell, I'm destroying everything. And it was like she was just actually just destroying us, and it's like, dude, we can't keep this up. And the entire expansion was just us trying to fight her off and hold back and be like, oh my god, this is terrible. And then maybe at the end, you know, Gandalf shows up or just somebody shows up, the light, right? And they're like, dude, we did it. And you push Xal'atath back, and then she's like, I'll be back, right? Like, I thought that's kind of what we were going to get. And instead, it was just kind of like, yeah, like, nah, we're good. Everything's fine. Like,
Yeah. Oh, we kind of...
that's what it was. It was like, no, we're
no.
good, man. Rarely have I felt that the actual main characters are in danger, right? Like, even when the stakes are supposed to be, like, world-ending, I'm always just kind of like, hey, you know what? They'll be fine. Like, it'll work out. Because there's no reason not to believe that. And so, like I've mentioned again and again, earlier Warcraft forced these characters into these difficult situations with difficult choices, and those choices impacted their lives forever. And it feels like a lot of modern WoW writing seems to just find solutions that avoid the worst possible outcomes. It almost feels like if Sylvanas was going to become a Banshee, and it was like, actually, I have Banshee resistance, and I'm good. Like, it feels like that at times. It's like, oh, okay, right? I guess Arthas just couldn't turn her into a Banshee, and now she's fine. And I think one of the reasons people don't like Sylvanas currently is it almost feels like she has those superpower abilities to just keep coming back. So it's like, why wouldn't I think she's not going to come back? Why wouldn't I think she's going to save the day, right? It's like, if I had to bet, I'd probably just say Sylvanas is going to kill Xal'atath at some point. Because, like, why would I think otherwise? She's, like, been fine out of all the other situations. So it's like, oh, she's probably just going to do that, right? And so I think that takes you out of the realism. It takes you out of this grounded world that we had in Warcraft 3, where people were making these choices that impacted their lives forever. And now it's just kind of like, hey, you know, she's back again and she's saving the world. Like, it just feels wrong. And so
part of me agrees and part of me disagrees.
all right.
Like the grounded, realistic choices. The video started with demons from a different plane of existence invaded our world, and it's a storyline with like zombies and light wielders and heroes and paladins. And the choices, while definitely difficult, as mentioned earlier, placing characters in difficult scenarios where they have to make these choices that are actually like, oh, I don't want to, but for the greater good or whatever. Those choices, like literally, even in the Shadowlands, where Anduin tells Sylvanas, like, make your choice, that is still there. Is it there always? No, but that is still there. Then the part about losing to Zolotov, I 1000% agree. And I spoke about this earlier.
Wait, hold on. I'm still trying to understand this point.
Or make your choice. To characters in like zombies, different plane of realistic choices. The video started with demons from a different plane of existence invaded our world, and it's a storyline with like zombies and light wielders and heroes and paladins.
I guess I should say less. I'm not really talking about realism in a sense of just like everything needs to feel real.
like obviously there's magic that's like high fantasy and stuff like that. I think I mean in real in terms of it makes sense for the world. You know what I mean? Like it like for that world, does this thing make sense? And it feels like sometimes the things occurring in the world don't make sense. And that's kind of the thing I'm getting at. If that makes sense. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? I don't know.
And the choices, while definitely difficult, as mentioned earlier, placing characters in difficult scenarios where they have to make these choices that are actually like, oh, I don't want to, but for the greater good or whatever. Those choices, like literally, even in the Shadowlands, where Anduin tells Sylvanas, like, make your choice. That is still there. Is it there always? No, but that is still there. Then the part about losing to Zolotov, I 1000% agree. And I spoke about this earlier during the stream as well. The hype around the Void Spire was real. That climax in the Void Spire where Illyria and Turellian are killed, Zolotov beams the Sunwell. We now have this ultimate beautiful skybox with like this beam coming down, and you can see it all around the world. And it took us 2 weeks to take care of that, and it's done. Why?
Yeah.
Even if...
And that's kind of my point I'm getting at, right? Like, this is all fantasy. It's stuff like this. People will be like, well, that's Warcraft 3, and this is modern WoW. You can't compare it to... But, like, again, that's not really my main point here. My point is, like, this type of thing. Like, it feels weird when this, like, major thing is, like... like we just said, it took us 2 weeks, right? And it feels like it should have taken... an entire expansion, or at least like till the final patch, like that type of thing, or it just feels like the threats are empty, and I think that's kind of the point that I'm trying to get at here. All right, I just paused OBS because I had to go pee, but here I am again.
If we want to consider, like, you know, they wanted to do the raid in the fucking March of Quel'Thanas, like, okay, you wanted to do a raid there, fine. You could have still had the well corrupted. You could still had that beam going on. The whole wrapping it up with a bow at the beginning, again, is an issue with pacing.
Yeah.
Now, the alternative is dragging something out. But I don't think that in this moment it would be dragging out, right? Like, I think it would have actually felt more impactful if that freaking well was corrupted for a much longer time. And over time, you would deal with the threats of the elves and you would have them unite. Instead of, again, pacing within 2 weeks. Bada bing, bada boom, everything's forgiven.
And even like thinking about it from even a design perspective, I thought that would have been awesome, right? Like you have this well and it's corrupted, right? And then maybe we go on a quest or not even a quest, maybe we do a dungeon and then a few dungeons or something, like it could be quest, whatever. We do something and we stop some of that Xal'atath corruption going on, right? And then the well, instead of being like really dark purple, it becomes a little bit lighter, right? And then we do something else, like we do a raid or whatever, and then it becomes a little bit lighter, and we slowly see that well kind of becoming less corrupt, and that Xal'atath is losing the power on it. And it's like, guys, we're doing this, right? Like, and even it could even be from like uniting elves. We're like going around and like, hey, let's unite these elves, and they're gonna help us to defeat this part of Xal'atath's plan. And then we go unite with the trolls, and they help us to defeat this with like the Loa. And then like the well becomes like less and less. And then before you know, at the end of expansion, we're just like, let's fight her back. We fight her back, and then boom, now we're at the point where the well isn't corrupted, and it's like, hey, you know what? She's still out there, but we saved the well. And like that to me would be like a good pay story. And you would be playing the game and impacting it, and you would see the impact because you have the visual cue of the well slowly becoming less and less corrupt. I think that would be awesome. But yeah.
Even forgotten. And sure, there's going to be some dialogue between the elves where like, I don't really like you. Sure,
right.
They're still going to have a little bit of friction. But at the same time, we got new organizations, and we got them studying together, and we've got them the new base in the city and blue banners up and all that. Again, mind-boggling that ending of the Void Spire was so quickly taken care of. Yeah, I agree that in that case, they should have definitely kept it going.
Oh, just to really wrap things up, I mean, we have so many of these big cosmic forces, right? We have the Burning Legion and the Void and the Old Gods and the Titans and World Souls and all this stuff, but none of that really matters unless, like I said, we have these characters making meaningful, difficult choices that impact the world. And that's the whole point of these cosmic forces, is it's making these characters make these difficult choices, and that might impact their life in a bad way, but that's just the way it is, right? Like, that's just life. And so when they say things like, for Azeroth, am I right, fellas? I'm like,
am I right, fellas? For
Am I right,
Azeroth.
fellas?
Again, I disagree with the choice complaint, because that is what happens in the storyline. Even in the Voidstorm, like Lofrection, we had a choice. Do we kill Lofrection or do we let him do a thing? Every single time there's an Arator, a moral obligation. Do I ally with the Dominar or do I ally with Lofrection? Like, choices, I don't really understand the
again, I think I've kind of reiterated this to the point now, but I think it's the meaningful impact of those choices. It's not inherently the choice itself, right? It's essentially like my example from earlier, where if I was like, come on, decide between saving your son or your husband or the world, and then she was just like, I don't know, I'll pick that one. And it's like, oh, it just so happened that something happened and now they're all safe. You know what I mean? It's like it feels like nothing has any sort of danger behind. Like, there's no true danger out there. It feels like everything's going to work out fine. And that's kind of the big thing, is like, when you watch, I think, a good story, I mean, to even compare this to like Disney, because everybody loves comparing to Disney, right? Even to compare this to Disney or say Marvel or something, there's been times where I've watched a Disney movie or a Marvel movie, and the writing is good enough to where I know what's going to happen, but I still feel that sense of like, this isn't good. Like, this might go wrong. And I think everyone's had that moment where I'm like, dude, this isn't looking good. And I'm like, I know it's going to work out. I've seen this movie 20 times. Like, why am I feeling this? And it's because the writing is just so good, so well paced. And I think that is my big issue with the whole choice thing. So I think I kind of worded that poorly. And I think Nobbel kind of points that out a bit, but hopefully I gave it some more clarity there.
basis for that one.
Like, I don't know, I guess. Like, I don't really care that much. Like, it'll probably turn out fine. I'm like, why should I even worry? Like, and like, I hope I got my...
Oh, on that one, I do agree, by the way. But then again, I think that's also a bit of a difficulty amongst the storytelling in MMORPG. The question as to how much damage can you do to your world? What do I mean by that?
Cataclysm.
There are certain rules in place when it comes to MMORPG storytelling that you cannot change. Like, for example, you can't get rid of the Forsaken. You can't get rid of the humans. You can't get rid of the Night Elves. They're gonna stick around. So you can definitely do death and destruction. Think, for example, a burning Hotel Drasil. But the Night Elves are still gonna be around. Why? Player characters. They still need to be able to play them, right? So in the example of, killing Sylvanas and Maker and the Banshee, in that case, a Warcraft 3 has much more freedom when it comes to making these massive, impactful moments.
I mean, I think I almost disagree with him here too, because I do think an MMORPG could do it. I think it's just more difficult. But I think instead of saying we're going to eliminate the Forsaken, you do it character based, right? Everything's character based. So maybe you make a really cool Forsaken character, and then something happens to them, right? Like, I feel like having more character specific things that have choice or have meaningful decisions play around them. I can't even talk right now. I think you make it more character focused. And I think you do that by designing good characters. But you design good characters by having them make these meaningful choices that impact them in real. And then we're kind of going all the way around. All right, I think that's what I'm doing. I'm excited to actually talk to Nobbel about this now, because I am curious to have like a little back and forth, because there's definitely a lot that I agree with him. I would say pretty much most of the things he says I'm agreeing with here, but there are some things where I'm like, I think they could do it. Like, I genuinely think if they really tried and like put their mind to it, I think they could accomplish it. But I think it is difficult. But that's, most things that are good are, difficult. I think that's kind of the point.
But at the same time, you can definitely, as you point out, you can definitely have change as well, like a Deathwing doing a full-on global change to the world.
Yeah.
But then we flow into development.
Exactly, yeah.
Would Blizzard want to update the world into its current
sparkling
storytelling
water.
every single time? Oh, 1,000%. There's no doubt in my mind that they would love for every single zone to be upgraded each year into new expansions. But do they have development time for it? No. So it's very difficult to do that kind of storytelling and keep that impactful things going. So while I do agree, like, impactful moments are important, there is a bit of a difference between an RTS storytelling there and an MMORPG storytelling there, where there's a certain amount of rules that you need to keep going. Stop players from making new night elves. I mean, they can't, right? Like, you need to have the night elves amongst the factions. And a loss because there's a percentage of your players or readers or viewers who will get mad. I personally think one of the worst things you can do is write a story because you think that is what your audience wants.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if there's one thing I've learned, no matter what you do, someone will get mad. No matter what you do, you could do literally everything correct in the way you want to do it. Someone will get mad. There could be like, everybody loves it. One guy will be like, could have been better. Like, you're never going to please anybody, right? That's the way it is. So to write something is like, well, we can't have this person die because people get mad. It's like, dude, if it makes sense in the world and the story, then like it should happen, or like possibly happen, right? Like that's that sense of realism.
Most recently, we got something with like the Heronier review. And eventually the conclusion became what the Heronier told us about them being the origin point of the trolls and the night elves. Now it's actually point of view. And to me, that comes across as you wanted to tell a story, but because of the reaction to it, you're like, we're just going to make a point of view and we'll see what we're going to do it with later on. For me personally, what's worse than a bad story is not telling a story at all. And with that, I mean, I want to know the story that you're going to tell it. Will I have criticisms? Oh, yeah, I will. Will I have opinions? Yes, but at least it's your story. And I want to be invested in your world. I want to know what your story is, but you are the one designing it, right? But that's my take.
Oh, I guess. Like, I don't really care that much. Like, it'll probably turn out fine. I'm like, why should I even worry? Like, and like, I hope I got my point across in a decent fashion without bashing the game too much, or, you know, that type of thing. It's like, that wasn't truly my intent, because it's so easy for people nowadays to just say, it's Disney, it's Warcraft, it's bad, it's whatever, right? And so I was like, what are the things that I actually don't enjoy that I can analyze and think about? Like, what are the actual flaws that I'm finding and observing in the game? And so people will say things like, put the war back in Warcraft, but like, that's not it. Like, we've had war plenty of times. We had a big war in BFA and nobody liked it. So like, also somebody was just like, well, Crendor doesn't know retail lore anyway. I don't know it because it's hard to learn it. That's the whole point of the video. Sorry. I think what it comes down to is people want villains that feel realistic, that they can understand. I think people want stories with consequences. I think people want characters that feel realistic and characters that feel like they could be real people in a world that's shaped by their choices. And I think we as players also want stories that we can experience efficiently instead of needing 3 books, like 5 YouTube videos, and 4 Chromie quests to get caught up on. And so, you know, the old lore wasn't even that, like, revolutionary or anything. Like, it wasn't that complex, but it felt like real people were making tough choices that could impact themselves and the world they were a part of, even if it was some goofy, cartoony fantasy world. And so you understood their ambitions, you understood their frustrations and their fears, and, you know, to an extent, like, why they made the choices that they made. And I think that's what made Warcraft 3 so memorable. But either way, thanks for watching me rant. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, I don't know, just move on. Subscribe if you want, or don't. I'm not your dad.
No, you're not.
I'm not.
Let me give you all a link, by the way. If you'd all be so kind to go out, give it a like as we watched it. Maybe even leave a comment, a sneaky little comment. So interestingly enough, that entire ending right there, with the conclusions as to what are we looking for in the storytelling,
right?
I could not agree more.
Nice.
I would say put that on a sticky note, put it up in the Blizzard headquarters. Yes, you want a villain you can understand, where you explain the backstory. Yes, you want to feel these choices to be realistic and that you can follow along with what these characters are doing. Yes, you want to make sure that whatever this character is choosing to do is in line with what you've told me previously about said character, so that it makes sense, so that it has impact, so that I'm like, what is my guy doing? What's happening here? And
Exactly.
if it doesn't make sense to the character, I start to wonder, like, okay, are there outside forces manipulating them, influencing them? What is going on here? This is interesting, right?
Yeah.
I cannot agree more, and those are definitely things that on Blizzard's side they could totally improve on. That said, during the reaction, I also pointed out a couple of things that I was like, I don't really see the comparison there. Because RTS versus MMORPG, and there are definitely
Right.
choices being made, but it's across the board. And of course, the biggest one, which is getting people into the story. But that one is super tricky. Because how do you get... And I mentioned this before. I love the Warcraft story. I love the universe. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have made the channel and spent so much time diving into it. But I'm also very realistic in the mindset that it's not for everybody. Most players out there will just skip the story presented. And in that case, like, how do you cater to both? And maybe part of the solution would be just big movies, big moments that are like capturing the essence of the story that you want to tell, and the rest is like details. I don't know.
I mean, I do think that's kind of a thing of a story well, storytelling, I guess I should say, is that you have the main story and the main characters and all this stuff, and then it branches out from there. And I think they just need to do a better job of making people intrigued and interested in the characters and the villain and the main plot, that it makes them want to read the quest and it makes them want to do the thing. So you go to the game and you go, wow, I played through that and that villain was really interesting and that was really cool. Like, I want to know more. Because when you read a good story or you see something cool, you want to know more about it. You start looking into stuff. You go like, hey, you know what? When I got to this point, I skipped all those quests, but I'm going to go like read those quests now, right? And it makes you want to go back. And I think that's the thing, is it shouldn't be, how do we get people to like actually read their quest? Do we like strap them into their seat and go like, you're going to read this? It's more so of like, how do we make players like want to do it? And I think that's how you do it. You just make characters that are interesting and villains that are interesting and a story that's interesting. And that in itself, I think will make people want to read the quests and go back and do stuff like that. But again, it is hard. Like, it's definitely, a tricky thing to do, especially when you have so much lore that predates what you're currently working with, right?
I don't know what the solution is there. Because, yeah, good luck catching up with so much story, innit? The Hernia fuck up felt planned. The same issue, but this time it's planned the characters fuck up. I agree, Wriggle. To me...
All right, well, I think that's pretty much his whole reaction of my video. I think now he's just reading his chat and doing some Q&A, but that was a good reaction. I'm glad Nobbel reacted to it. I'm actually glad I watched this, because now when we do our little lore meetup, I can kind of bring up some points. Like I do want to bring up the miracle things he talked about, and ask him more about that. I kind of want to research it myself as well, because there's a lot of things where I know what happened, but I wasn't like truly like focused in, like paying attention, like like I should be, I guess. But I would say that happens to a lot of people, to be honest. But either way, I'm kind of just rambling now. So thanks for watching me react to Nobbel react to my video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And yeah, here's some more videos if you want to go watch them. There's new Pointless Top 10, or there's another video I made. I'll put another one up there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay? Okay. See ya. Oh, I'll put Nobbel links down below as well. Woo!